Welcome back to the locker room. I'm Captain Paul. This is Fajardo. Got some exciting trade news to talk about. But before we get into that, Fajardo, tell us about our sponsor.
Groovy J, making beats. He's working with a couple of different record labels, a couple of different artists. He has some stuff coming out. Obviously, we're going to attach his Twitter handle underneath. Definitely give him a follow for music and things like that. But he makes some really good beats. He's a very hardworking young guy who I met, and he was happy to help and sponsor the show. With some beats and so on. And stay tuned for more.
We appreciate that, and let's get right into the news. Kind of a minor deal in a lot of ways, but Kulikov traded to the Ducks by the Wild for future considerations. The defenseman had 24 points and was a plus 23 last season. Dmitry Kulikov was traded to the Anaheim Ducks by the Minnesota Wild on Wednesday. The 31-year-old defenseman had 24 points, 7 goals, 17 assists in 80 games last season and was a plus 23, the best total of his 13-season NHL career. And he also had 1 assist in 2 Stanley Cup playoff games. Kulikov is entering the final season of a 2-year, $4.5 million contract, $2.25 annually. He signed with the Wild on July 28th, 2021, and can become an unrestricted free agent after the season. Billy Guerin had this to say: "This is a tough one because he had a great year last year and played very well for us, but we needed to move some salary cap space. We felt we had maybe one to too many defensemen, and we don't want to put guys in a position where they're not playing or not playing enough. This has been talked about for quite a while in Anaheim, so it just became kind of to a head today, and we wish him nothing but the best." Selected in the first round of at number 14 in the 2009 draft, Kulikov has 198 points, 42 goals, 156 assists, and 805 regular season games. He's played for the Wild, Devils, Oilers, Jets, Sabres, Panthers, and has had 8 points, 1 goal, 7 assists in 29 playoff games. The Ducks also signed defenseman John Klingberg to a 1-year contract in July 29th. So it seems like the Ducks are trying to solidify their back end. Kulikov is nothing like... He's not going to be a game changer on the back end, right? I'm not throwing shade here, but he was definitely not where he wasn't that draft status for sure. It seems like it's been difficult for him to find a home, but he played very well last season. And kind of looking into it right now, I mean, here on Cap Friendly, these aren't set depth charts, but they kind of have him slotted in behind Vakanainen. I mean, he had a really good season last season, right, with 7 goals, 17 assists for 24 points. But the one concern I'd have to have is that a product of being in a very, solid Minnesota team. You know what I mean? He only had 18 minutes time on ice last season. I mean, if you look at the pairs that are projected, that's the lowest out of all of them. So he's definitely like a bottom pairing guy, right?
Yeah.
So I think $2.25 million, that's maybe a little bit rich for a bottom pairing guy, but if you're looking for a little bit of stability on the back end, I'm not going to be mad at it. It's interesting. I think there's depth there on Anaheim with their defense score, but what do you think of this signing, or I should say trade?
I mean, I think it's a win all around. I part of my voice, a little bit of screaming for some games. I watch soccer, excitement, right? But so I think that for Anaheim, it's going to be a great deal, right? You get a solid defenseman who's on his last year of his contract, and we all know players on the last year of their contract show out. All the time they try to show out. So he's going to put his best foot forward, right? Considering he had a really good season last season, I expect him to have a similar or even better season, right? And for Anaheim altogether, they're trying to solidify the back end to try to compete with the bigger names in their division, in their conference, and become a playoff team. Will this be the keystone? No, right? But it helps, right?
Yeah.
Because now you have someone who's more seasoned, right? You pair him up with somebody, according to Cap Friendly, you pair him up with someone like Draisaitl, right? Who's 20, right? You give him some experience. You get a guy who's a little bit offensive. He's a little bit more defensive, and now it looks like, okay, there's stability in the back end, and now it's going to fall on the forwards to do more of a job. So for Anaheim, I think they're winning. For Kulikov, I think he's winning, right? Because he's getting he's on his last season.
Right.
He's getting onto a team that's kind of like rebuilt a little bit, and they're looking to make that playoff run. And as you can see, he's been in the playoffs quite a bit. On the teams that he's been on, except for the Devils, because they were just horrible when he was there.
Yeah.
That's not his fault. But now you get on a team that they kind of rebuilt, and then so it's a win for Anaheim. It's a win for the player. And now let's look at Minnesota. For Minnesota, it's also a win because they open up some cap room, but they also get to bring up some players, some talented defensemen that they were looking at, trying to see how they bring them up, like Callan Addison, who might be able to break into that top six and show something new. You know what I mean? So that's one of those things that I think this was a good trade for everyone. Nobody's a loser in this one. Right?
No.
Everybody kind of got a little bit of something that they wanted.
And listen, and Anaheim has a ton of cap space, like 16 mil. Like, they have a ton of cap space, so they could take on a couple million extra on a 1-year deal.
Exactly.
And this is probably an opportunity for Kulikov to really maybe get another couple-year deal, right? Like, I don't think he'll ever break the bank type guy. But let's just kind of go into the splits with his career. Like last year, we'll say it again: 80 games, 7 goals, 17 assists, 24 points, plus 23. He time on ice only 18 minutes, 12 seconds average. It's not amazing. But for what he was, for what he is, it's not bad. But like if you look throughout his career, right, he's. Because he had such promise. I do remember him with the Panthers, and they're pretty prompt. Like, they were like, oh, this guy could be the next, really good, solid defenseman for the Panthers. But he's had more of his seasons have been negative plus minuses. Now, is it to the sum of the parts around him a bit? Absolutely. I'm not saying these Florida teams will run amazingly. But it just seems, regardless, any situation he goes to, it's not that much success. Like, outside of last season, his most successful would have probably been with Winnipeg. 62 games, 3 goals, 8 assists, 11 points, and a plus 6 plus minus.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, to be fair, that last season in Florida, 74 games played, 1 goal, 16 assists, 17 points, plus 8. It's nothing earth-shattering here. So, it is kind of interesting to see -4, -3, -4, +1, and then like a +23, like a big old jump. So, I think if you limit Kulikov's minutes and you put him in the right situation, he'll be an effective defenseman. Just don't expect him to be your savior.
Right. And I think that's where the big problem happened, right? Because he was such a high draft pick, there was so much promise and all this stuff. You know how it is when you're the top guy coming in from a draft, you're the number 1 draft pick. Well, not number 1 overall, but number 1 for the franchise, or one of the first rounders for the franchise. You're expected to do big things, and I think that he fell in that thing, in that little circle where, okay, we expect you to do big things. Now here, prove it.
Yeah, I think it's just a fresh start is good for some players. Like, it's just a fresh start. I think Kulikov, I think he comes in this system. The Ducks, look at the plus minus on the defenseman last season, ain't great. It's just not. It's not great, but I think that's more of the sum of parts of the whole team around them. Mm-hmm. So hopefully they can, play a really well-rounded game. Some of the signings I've liked. I'm hoping Frank Vetrano could finally have that breakout season. Yeah. I think you're hoping Trevor Seagrass takes that next step, same with Terry. They're young players. Strome.
Obviously, I'm a Ranger fan, right? Strome and Vetrano, I think, are really, really good. I think they hit a certain point right now in their careers that any team is lucky to have them right now. Yeah. Vetrano's shot is just.
It's lethal. It's one of the better ones in the NHL that people don't recognize. I watched him play in college, and then I also his first NHL team was the Boston Bruins as undrafted free agent. Mm-hmm. he had a lethal shot. He just had to work on the rest of his game, so it's good for him. But getting back to Kulikov, you know what? I'll give this a thumbs up. I think this is a good deal. You know, they have a ton of cap space in Anaheim. Try to solidify your back end. Make sure that you have a quality defenseman coming out in all your 3 pairings. So yeah, I'll give this a thumbs up on this deal.
Same. I give it a thumbs up. Like I said, I think everybody won on this deal all around. You know what I mean? Worst case scenario for Anaheim, if he's not performing well or whatever the case is, I'm pretty sure that there's some prospects that they may want to give some chances to. But at least now they have a decent place to start, and it isn't rushed or forced to bring their young players in.
Absolutely. So, for the locker room, I'm Captain Paul. This is Fajardo. Let us know your opinions on this trade. What are your thoughts? Do you think that this was a smart trade for the Ducks to make? Do you think Minnesota was wise to offload him? We'd be very interested to hear your opinion. And what would you give it, a thumbs up, thumbs down, or kind of meh? Again, I'm Captain Paul. This is Fajardo. We're the locker room, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Peace.
Peace.